there yesterday.
I was.
So talk to me about, first and foremost, the vibe around the stadium, because I was there. When was I last there? And it was last few games I've been there. It's just been really bad, to be honest. To be honest, not too much. Everyone's just a bit like over it and being like, you know, let's just have a bit of fun with it.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I got yesterday. Actually, the atmosphere wasn't terrible. I thought the fans were trying to get behind the team, especially in the south. There was a constant kind of the drummer was, you know, constantly supporting.
Big up to the drummer.
Yeah, the fans were, you know, constantly chanting different things. It wasn't like an electric atmosphere, but it was like constant support. There wasn't long silent periods, put it that way, where where you could feel the fans on the players' backs and they weren't groaning at every loose pass and those kind of things. I thought the fans were generally supportive yesterday. Maybe it was a reaction to a better first half and a better kind of performance and more attacking intent. I think the fans probably acknowledged that. And even second half, I thought the fans, you know, even though Sunderland would come back into it, we kept supporting and kept supporting the team and cheering them on. But obviously, once the full-time whistle went, especially those last 10 minutes when we would level and trying to get the winner with a little avail, then the real frustration started boiling over. And obviously at full-time, there were very loud boos for the team. Thomas Frank, very noticeably, I felt, he clapped the fans, but he basically, what he did was he moved to the centre circle. He kind of did a little like couple steps like towards the south, like he was still very much like in the D, basically on the halfway line. Heard he was getting booed and decided I'm not going to go any further, and just turned and went down the tunnel. Maybe it's smart to do, but he didn't obviously go over to clap the fans like he told Van der Ven and Spence to do when they obviously drudged past him. I think it was against Chelsea in that game. Although he would argue he did clap the fans, he just didn't get close to the south stand, and Van der Ven and Spence didn't actually clap them at all. They just trudged off straight away. So don't know if you're splitting hairs or if there's a massive difference there, but Frank, didn't want to hang around too long, it seemed. But it was definitely, everyone's just, I think, apathetic, fed up, don't like what they're seeing. No one, I can't think of anyone or see anyone who really likes what the manager or really believes that this guy's right for our club. The approach for most games is really dire and really hard to watch. You know, sitting back at home to a promoted team who have scored, by the way, before yesterday, 4 goals away from home this season, and we're sitting back against them and basically trying to see out a 1-0 for way too long. Is not anything that we expect from Tottenham Hotspur. And whatever you want to say about the quality of the squad, we have very large resources, and we need a manager who is going to be someone to allowed to back with those resources and get the most out of them and get us into a position where we are capable of dominating teams, playing good football, winning games of football. And right now, none of that is happening. And I think just in the stadium, it wasn't toxic. It was just, I think, frustration, and everyone's fed up. And I think everyone just wants to change. I think no one's enjoying what they're seeing.
Yeah, I think it's good to hear that, you know, we're supporting the club whilst the game's going on, and I think the boos are warranted after the game. And look, we'll get into the game, but
it's every game at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's warranted when you look at what we've produced on the pitch this season. I think fans are well within their right to boo the team off the pitch, but I think it's right not to let that negativity seep in from the fan base during the game.
Which I think obviously it did against Fulham, but it hasn't. Don't think it's happened since. But I was saying after, I think yesterday, do I think in terms of just, I would take the game in isolation, is that a booable performance? Probably not. I think in a different context, we wouldn't have been booing in that situation, just in that game in isolation. But I think in the context of the season, how it's gone, especially our home form, the football that's being played, I think you wouldn't expect anything else but that happening. And I think you've got to take that into the perspective of the performance and the game, because I think in general, for large parts of the game, it wasn't awful. But unfortunately, given how we've played for so long in the season, you know, we can't just take a 45 minutes of decent performance to sit here and say, yeah, that's good enough for what we're seeing.
Yeah,
so that's the reality.
And look, here in the studio, we were happy with what we saw in the first 45 minutes at half time, and I was saying, wow, look at this team, we're pressing high from the front, we're winning the ball in such good areas. How many times did we win the ball in their final third? How many times? I thought Bentancur was fantastic in that first half. He was running the show in the centre of the park. I thought he was brilliant, unplayable at times. Kuti, Romero and Mickey van der Ven stepping in, being really aggressive, helping us keep Sunderland penned in, and the desire and the aggressive nature of the team I thought were fantastic in that first half, but we still couldn't really muster up an attack to hurt Sunderland too much. The reality is we were 1-0 up, but we scored from a corner, and that corner went from Kuti Romero keeping it on to Mickey van der Ven, and then Ben Davies just about got the touch at the end.
Exactly, and if you look at that, if you're being brutally honest, that is shocking from Sunderland, because Romero was allowed, by the way, to take the ball down inside the box from a corner, by the way. Teld plays it in. Romero takes the ball down, he slips, gets back up, picks out Van der Ven, who then taps it to Davis, and then he puts it in. So not only did we have 3 touches in the box from the corner, but Romero also had time to slip, get back up, and still pick out a pass. That would not happen in 99% of games. You would not be afforded the opportunity. Now, lucky for us, it's kind of happened in 2 games in a row, or 2 out of the last 3, because against Palace, we also had a goal from a corner where we had 3 touches without a touch from an opposition player. But that is, people don't have to realise, that is really unlikely. You maybe get 2, a header across the face, a goal, and then a shot. But to have 3 touches without reply is basically unheard of, and if it's usually going to result in a goal if that does happen. But to think that kind of action is you can replicate that, you can't. I think in those 2 elements, for me, I think it's just luck that we've been able to have 3 touches in the box from an opposition corner without having them touch it.
It's a good point someone makes here. I mean, Arsenal have made a career out of doing stuff like that. They seem to get plenty of touches in the opposition box.
No, they don't. It's usually back post and Gabriel heads it.
I've seen, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there have been where it's just a melee in there and it's just like 2 or 3 Arsenal touches in the box.
Rare. I'm telling you that specific. You might be thinking of just goals from corners. I'm telling you, it's very rare to have 3 touches without reply in a corner. It's not common, and we've done it twice in the last 3 games, and that's obviously a goal is 4 points. But to rely on that is, I'm not saying rely on set pieces in the whole, because obviously set pieces become very important, and set pieces you can replicate that. But the kind of corners that we're scoring, recently, I would say, I think. I don't think it's easy to do that often. No. And I think it's very poor defending from Sunderland.
But look,
in my opinion.
Yeah, look, it was. There's no 2 ways about it. But when you're judging the first half display, I think it just goes to show how starved we are as a fan base when we're all so happy with that first half display. And look, don't get me wrong, it was decent, but to be so happy when we haven't made the goalkeeper made 1 save, that just shows you how starving we are. And all these things that we were showing, pressing, winning the ball back, being aggressive, all the things that I mentioned before, that should be the bare minimum of what we should expect from this team and our own team going into each game by game. And as much as we were happy with it at half time, it wasn't like particularly amazing, was it? It was decent.
It's exactly what I was saying. I think, again, in another context, if we had a different manager in a different season, going our way, you'd probably say, decent first half, we've played quite well, haven't put the game to bed, but, this would be like an average home game. This would be like a standard home game, right? That's that kind of performance.
Like, we were by far the better team. The better team, and we definitely deserved to be 1-0 up at half time. But it's just frustrating how we're calling that was probably one of our best 45 minutes of the season, and we didn't make the keeper make a save.
Yeah, and the football wasn't exactly exhilarating. It was fine. Like, we got chances to put some crosses in. We created some moments. There was no real clear-cut opportunities. There was, as you say, the keeper didn't have to make a save apart from right at the beginning with Tell, who had a shot early on. So we had that shot on target. But we struggled to really break them down. We struggled to really open them up. And for all the good pressing and pen them in, had possession, I think the most impressive thing was how we kept Sunderland at arm's length. But again, I will say, they have scored 4 goals away from home this season. This isn't a team that loves scoring away from home. Okay, so it's not exactly like it's that hard to keep them out. like as with other teams. So, but we did keep them at arm's length, and they struggled to get anything near our goal in that first half. So that was good. But as I say again, that should be seen as a kind of standard performance, nothing amazing, nothing special, and that's like the best it's been for at home, apart from the Brentford game, for us this season. So it's hard to get too excited when you've seen that, and obviously we didn't kill the game off. Even can't even get excited with the goals. Like the goals we were scoring are rubbish as well. The goal we scored against Palace was awful. This goal was also terrible. I know Ben Davies scored, and the chant of Davis again, ole ole, ringing around the stadium.
I started that chant.
See, you started the chant, didn't you?
Yeah. I was singing it here in the studio, and then I saw your video afterwards. I was like, wow.
Brilliant. I think, that obviously, maybe someone's watching the watch-along in the stadium.
Yeah, maybe.
Obviously, that was a response to Johnson leaving, and Davis got his goal. But it's, I think for me, it's hard to praise it too much, that opening 45 minutes, as much as it was better because of all those reasons. Like, I can't sit here and say, oh, that was amazing. Like, first of all, it got worse again in the second 45. And also, as you say, we didn't really create much. And I know the XG was fairly high. I think it was like 0.9 in the first half. But again, how much was that due to Davis being right on the line when he scored?
Yeah, it was pretty much an open goal from Ben Davies.
So that was probably a 0.8 or something XG. Like, all the rest was low quality shots. So it's not exactly like we... Like, I saw some tweets saying, oh, in that first half we should have been 2-3 up. I was like... I mean, should we? Given the dominance,
given the dominance that we had, that we should have put the game to bed in the first half. We should have created more clear-cut chances with the dominance that we had, 100%. But we didn't, and we were 1-0 up, and it was probably a fair reflection of the chances that we created, being 1-0 up. But I liked Tello out on the left-hand side. His first start in a long time, and I thought he was the most busy out of our forward line. And what I liked about him as well, he was having a few shots, a few digs from far out, and he was always trying to do that kind of Sonny manoeuvre and cut inside and have that kind of whip shot. There was one that went just far wide of the post. There was one that you were talking about right at the beginning that forced the save out the keeper. So I like the dynamic of Tello on the left-hand side, and I hope he persists with it, and I hope he doesn't loan him out, because he looks like our strongest forward player with Kudus out injured.
Yeah, and also not only just the shots, which I agree, it was nice to see someone take some shots from out wide, which feels like we just never see. But also he was whipping the crosses in. I know it was to no avail, but he was taken on his man.
Wasn't
like, I wouldn't say he had him on toast or anything, but he was doing
asking questions.
He was good at. He was actually creating a yard and whipping the ball in. Now I'm looking at the box, and again we pretty much only have Richarlison and maybe one other in there at any given point.
Yeah.
And we're expecting the crosses to be so pinpoint that those players are found. And where the other players are sitting are right on the edge of the box. They're sitting on the edge of the box, so that if the ball is cleared, it either falls to them or it stops a counter-attack. But if we're not getting the players in the box, how do you expect those crosses to be met by anyone? How do you, when we're constantly outnumbered? Obviously, it's hard to get loads of players in the box and risk a counter-attack, but that's a risk. It's a risk versus reward. If you get enough players in there, more often than not, you're going to start creating more chances and getting more shots on goal. But it seems as though whenever I look at the box, when Tell or Kudus are crossing it, there's very little to aim at. There's not a lot of players. They're all kind of kept on out the box. So people will bemoan the lack of quality, but are we giving them the best opportunity to be getting an assist or by someone getting on the end of it?
Yeah, it's a fair point. Odebear started in the 10, which was a surprise to everyone. I thought it was going to be Kudus in the 10, but it was Odebear in the 10. And look, I thought Odebear, what he did really well was his pressing. He kept winning the ball back consistently. But I just felt there was a bit of a lack of quality from him to actually create a chance or to have a shot or whatever. Like, he was very busy in the opening half an hour, I would say. But then he kind of like just kept waning and waning out the game and until he got taken off, didn't he, Odebear? So that was that with Odebear, which, nice busy performance, but didn't really make too much of an impact. Kudus went off after 15 minutes, which is a massive blow for us. And then Mwani came on, and I thought Mwani was poor, man, when he came on. Kept losing the ball, heavy touches. I just don't like Mwani on the wing. I've said it consistently time and time again. What does he do?
It's a weird one. Because I actually think when it comes to him on the wing, sometimes when he gets the ball, he looks like the player who can keep it and actually take it past the player quite often. But again, the quality at the end of it, there was a moment where he dribbled past like 2 players. And all he had to do was just slip Tell in. Tell was there on the left-hand side, in on goal, and he decided to try and dribble and get it past the player rather than just pass it into Tell, and it was a really poor decision. He had another one when Porro plays the ball over the top, and he was in on goal with a better touch, and he takes a poor touch, and that chance was gone. There was a few moments there where he was there in the right position to impact the game, and his either decision making or the quality was really, really poor. But he got himself in those situations a lot due to his good work. So it's a bit of like, which way do you put it? A lot of people accusing him of not wanting to be here. A lot of people say his body language doesn't look good.
I think that's just him, though.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy into that. I think that's a bit much. But it's now January, and the reality is he hasn't scored a Premier League goal.
Yeah.
And that is the truth.
Yeah, I mean, from his perspective, coming into the game yesterday, obviously he's come in to make an impact in the first team straight away. He's a French international, and he's got players like Audebert and Tell ahead of him who are French under-21 internationals. Mm-hmm. So how do you think he's feeling about that? Yeah,
he's probably frustrated. And obviously we all complain about Rishi, but he can't get in the team at the moment ahead of him because Rishi's scoring goals and he isn't. So he's probably come here on loan thinking, obviously he wants to get in that World Cup squad, and he's struggling.
But he's got to look at himself more than anything else. He's got to make an impact. And as much as say we like his performances, we like his energy on the pitch, the reality is he's not making enough of an impact in games right now.
Yeah, he needs to be getting more goal contributions. That's the reality, which he did at his previous clubs, but just hasn't been able to replicate that here for one reason or another.
Yeah, I think apart from the 2 goals against PSG, that's the only goal contributions he's got.
Yeah. No, he got did he get an assist against Copenhagen, I think?
Against Copenhagen, yeah, he got 1 assist. But Premier League, 0 goals, 0 assists.
Yeah.
So he's got to be doing a lot better, in my opinion. I want to talk about Bentancur because I think Bentancur is going through a good moment. I mean, we're always talking about him being up and down, but I think the last couple of games, he's actually been decent. And first 45, I thought it might have been his best 45 of the season. I thought he was fantastic, man. Playing out of trouble, gobbling everything up, being aggressive, everything that you want to see from Bentancur, I thought he provided for us in that first 45 minutes of football.
Yeah, and I thought he was dominant. He looked really good. I was really impressed with him. And he was playing the ball, he was just being very aggressive. What again I like about Bentancur, something that goes under radar, is his reading of the game. He's reading the game.
Anticipation,
anticipation when he presses to win the ball back, is understanding where the ball's going to go. I thought in the first half he was really good. I thought him and Gray was doing some good stuff as well. His driving into the pitch. I thought Gray was obviously a bit more forward thinking, which, look, it looks like Bentancur is very much at the moment our first choice DM. He has been now for the last 5-6 games. Paulinho is just not at the moment. I wonder if he is, even to say, is he in his plans? He's just a glorified super sub at the moment, it seems. Paulinho in the last few games. It looks like
and no matter if we're winning, losing, drawing, he always brings him on.
Okay, obviously he's in his plans, but it's a really interesting dynamic given how talked about Paulinho was at the start of the season. And it's not like he's dropped his performance. He's just been out of the team. And now Frank very much prefers Bentancur and thinks he's a better fit for what he wants, which I do find very interesting, considering everyone was saying pay the money for Paulinho and sign him, and he's it was a no-brainer. We're very much clearly a decision up for debate at the moment, I would say, whether to sign him permanently. But back to Bentancur, when he's in this kind of mood, yeah, he's really good, and it seems as though he can only manage it once a week. If he plays more than once a week, then something goes wrong. But yeah, he was in good form yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Archie was a bit up and down in the game, to be honest. I thought he did well driving forward, but I think sometimes his pass or his touch let him down a bit on the day, which seems to happen with Spurs players. And once they get in the final third, they don't know what to do with it. And I think there was evidence of that with Archie Gray yesterday. Romero, I don't know what's going on with Romero at the moment, man, because I thought he was pretty... Look, there were some really good things with Romero, how he was able to step into the midfield areas and jump in front of his midfielder or attacker and win the ball back and start us on an attack. You know, the way he bursts up the pitch and provides an option for us. I love all those things from Romero. But there's moments in the defence where he's just way too, don't know what the word is, lackadaisical probably, but too calm. And he just puts us under pressure. There was another moment where he just pretty much just plays a Sunderland player one-on-one with the keeper. And I'm just like, for a player that's our captain, for a player that's had the experience that he's had, this should not be happening as regular as it happens with Cuti Romero. And I don't know what's going on.
It's reminding me of late-stage Conte Romero. Very much reminded me of that, where when we were at our best under Conte, he was like flying, he was brilliant. But there was that stage late in Conte's tenure where I remember he got sent off against Milan. He just seemed to be getting loads and loads of cards and making mistakes and just didn't seem himself. And he cut an unhappy figure. Now this season he started brilliantly and he looked very on it. He was, pocketed Haaland at the beginning of the season and had a brilliant performance against PSG. And it was going well for him, that was off the back of what was, I know in the league it wasn't strong, but off the back of what was a strong ending to the last season, where he was brilliant in those Europa League games and won Europa League Player of the Tournament. So, that was what we know Romero's capable of. But lately, definitely in the last month or so, these mistakes are consistent now. They're happening every game. You can't excuse them. He's consistently underperforming. Something seems off with him. He doesn't cut a very happy figure. I actually saw him. He was having a little chat with Frank after the game. I don't know what was being said, but while they were going off the pitch, look, they seemed to be having just an honest conversation. It wasn't anything about being angry or anything. But I do wonder about where his head is at, because we all know when Romero's head's not right, it could definitely influence his performances. We've seen that before. And I wonder if there's an element to that right now of Romero where obviously he's been given the captaincy and he committed his future to Tottenham in the summer by signing that long contract. Is there an element to him now starting to regret that decision?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but that is not what you need from a captain. He's the captain of this football club, and what you need from a captain is steady hands, stable hands.
I think he was given promises, I reckon, from the board and all this kind of stuff because obviously we know he had a great relationship with Ange, and they got on really well. And he did that statement when Frank was appointed, blah blah blah, and obviously everyone was convinced in the summer he was leaving. And everyone was shocked to learn that he signed a contract and he was given the captaincy, and everyone was like, okay, he's committing his future here. But I think to do that, he must have been given some sort of assurances, because we know publicly Romero has complained about either the signings of the club or the direction of the club and how we act as a club compared to some of the bigger teams. Now this season, Frank's come in. Obviously, when we start the season, it looked like, okay, maybe this is a good approach. I think we saw Romero bang on it, and we were performing well. But maybe as the season's gone on, as the results have dipped and the play style has really taken a nosedive, has he looked at the bigger picture again and thought, why did I think things were going to change here? Things are just exactly as they were. I've got all these promises from the ENIC 2.0 and the new leader, the new owners, and all this kind of stuff. And have I been sold a bunch of lies? Is that sort of going through his head? And I get that you don't need it. We don't want that from our captain, but is it only natural when you've got a player like Romero who's wears his heart on his sleeve, doesn't he?
Yeah.
What do we do about it?
I don't think that should run as an excuse of a player that's a captain of a football club. He needs to rise above that and keep his performance levels and inspire people around him. You look at his partner in Mickey van der Ven, he keeps up his levels week in, week out, no matter what the situation is around him. And that's what we need from our captain. We need him to inspire everyone around us. And if he keeps making mistakes the way he is, he's not doing that. He's putting us under more pressure than we're already in. And in terms of promises from ENIC 2.0 and all that kind of stuff, I mean, the transfer business that we did in the summer, we brought in Kudus, we brought in Javi, we brought in Kolo Muani. We brought in players that should have matched that kind of ambition. Maybe you can argue that we didn't bring enough in, which is fair enough because there are still massive holes in the squad. But in terms of moving forward, he signed the contract whilst Frank was already in the club. So I don't know what more, like where this has come from, because he should have seen everything with his eyes wide open when the season started anyway.
It's hard to know how things are going to play out at the start. Obviously, you can only predict, but things have not played out as well as we would hoped, have they? And as we've said before, he did have a good relationship with Ange, and he liked Ange. So I'm not saying he wants Ange back. I'm just saying, is it the same with Frank? Does he think Frank's the guy? Is that subconsciously playing on his mind? Look, all that to say, what do we do about the situation? Do we drop him? Because we could do. Danso played quite well in the last game. What message does that send out, dropping your captain? But we could well do that. I don't know if Frank has the balls to do that, but we could do that.
It sends a message saying if you're not up to the required levels, then you're not going to carry on in the team. And I think it's the right message to have, Why, if a player keeps underperforming game in, game out, then why not?
But it just becomes a story, like Salah being dropped and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so are we not going to make the hard decisions because it comes as a story in the press, or are we going to do something for the best of the team?
I mean, we all know, but we all can accept that Romero's a better player than Danso.
Much better, but he's not playing that better than Danso right now.
I mean, on the ball, he probably still is. And what we lose on the ball, is that too great?
I mean, look, I'm not saying keep him out of the team for a sustained amount of time, but maybe one game off, one game out. You know what I mean? And I think when Romero did have that game out and Danso played at centre-back with Van der Ven, I don't think we lost too much defensively. I think we were pretty good that game, from a defensive capability.
Against Palace, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have a problem at all with dropping Romero for this one game against Bournemouth. Hopefully it kicks him up the arse and kicks him into gear. But who knows? Like someone with Romero's character, it could probably confirm more in his mind that he wants to leave. But at the end of the day, if he keeps making mistakes like this week in, week out, would you even have a problem taking 60, 70 million for someone like Romero? I don't think I would if he keeps making these mistakes.
I would. Because the problem, I don't think he's the problem.
Well, he is the problem he's a problem if he keeps making these mistakes. Not the problem, but a problem.
Well, I think you need someone who can get the best out of him. Because it would be stupid to let him go. We're not getting better than Romero.
No, I get that. We're not getting better than Romero. We might get someone more consistent than Romero, though.
For me, what you get with Romero outweighs what you lose with him.
I don't even know if that's true, because since Romero's come here, has he ever consistently been that player? He's had moments, don't get me wrong, the Europa League run and everything like that, but has he actually ever performed to us on a consistent basis that we know of the quality of the player?
Yeah, I think there's been times. I think his first season had a poor start, get used to league, but once Conte came in, he was brilliant. Second season, no. Third season, in Ange's first season, I think didn't get our player of the year. He was brilliant, wasn't he? Or maybe second to Van der Ven.
Van der Ven got it, yeah.
But he was consistent that year. I know he got sent off in that Chelsea game, but apart from that, he was brilliant. Last season, I thought when he played, he was good, but he was obviously injured a lot that season. But when he played, I don't remember him being bad. He had some bad moments. I remember that Wolves game; he was awful. But I think I
think he was poor last season, man.
He wasn't.
He was great in the Europa League.
No, he wasn't.
But in the Premier League second half of the season, I thought he was really
He
poor.
barely played.
Well, when he did play, he stepped in and he didn't care.
Against Wolves, yeah, in that maybe one or two games. I think in general he was good. I think in general he played well. And in the Europa League, he got Europa League Player of the Year. So he was very good. And then this season, started off brilliantly. But in the last month or so, it's gone wrong for him. But I think, for me, in terms of what he offers you and what you get with Romero, I think the good outweighs the bad. And I think he's a brilliant defender, a brilliant player, in my opinion. I think we'd be so stupid to let him go because, I know he's not playing well at the moment, but we need him. We need some. If we're going to be back at the top, we need players like Romero. Is my point.
I'm not sitting here and saying that we need to sell Romero to kick on, but I'm just saying if a big bid comes in, I don't know if I'd be against selling him because I don't even know if his heart's in it at Tottenham. That's the reality.
Signed a deal. He wouldn't.
I know he's just signed a deal, but he's also said he wants to play in Spain, and we all thought he was 100% leaving. you're saying as well. Now, is he questioning everything around him? And it's fair to question
That's my point,
everyone's questioning things around him, but I can't see the club progressing as fast enough as he needs it to. So is his heart ever going to be in it?
That's a club problem, not him.
Yeah, but he's here, and whilst this situation we're under, is his heart going to be in it?
We should accept. So we should just accept that we're never going to be good enough for him and just sell him.
Not never, but if we're not good enough, and he keeps putting in these, if we're not ever going to be good enough while he's here, he's going to keep putting in these performances. So what is the point?
So we should get a worse player instead.
A more consistent player. Look at Mickey van der Ven next to him. You know, he probably looks around him and being like, "What the hell is going on?" But his performance levels don't drop.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we accepting it with Kuti?
Because he's our captain.
Yeah, but why is he our captain? If this is the feeling that he has?
Because he's the leader in the group.
But a leader in the group doesn't act like this or play like this.
I don't think he's doing it on purpose. It's not like he made that back pass on purpose because he doesn't,
So why does it keep happening? I know it's not on purpose. I'm not saying he's going out there and sabotaging the team on purpose. But why does this keep happening? And is that what you need from your captain?
Maybe not, but that's the kind of player he is.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe he should be
the captain. It's not the player we need right now. Then we need a more stable hands.
Let's get Craig Dawson in. He's more consistent.
Yeah, that's exactly what we need.
That's what we need.
Like, wow.
Mr. Consistent.
Like, there's no point being silly about it, saying we need Craig Dawson, but get a player that can be consistent. That's all I'm asking for.
Consistently what, though?
Consistently good.
They're not easy to come by.
No, but we got Mickey van der Ven in, and he's consistently good.
Yeah. He's also had some bad games.
So you're telling me there's no defender that we can sign that's consistently good?
He's also had some bad games recently.
Nowhere near as much as Romero. He doesn't make the glaring, stupid mistakes that Romero's making week in, week out right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but for me, I understand that. But I think, for me, as much as he's making those mistakes recently, once you get his mind right and once you get the best out of him, he's the best there is. You're not going to get better than him. So that's your job. Your job isn't to say, you made those mistakes, let's kick you out of the team, let's sell you. Let's get your mind right. Let's get you right. That's my point. Let's get you into a project that is going somewhere, because you're a winner. We know that. When how well he plays in finals, when it's big games. Like, he is suited to those environments. Right now, we're going nowhere. Right now, we're barely creating a chance. He's having to go up front for half the games nowadays because we're not doing anything. He's had to force the issue himself. So it doesn't surprise me that these stupid things start happening, but it's not down to him being a bad player or he has a bad mentality. That's due to what's happening right now at the football club and the environment. And to say we don't need these kind of players, we need him. We need a winner. That's what we need. 100%. And because we're shit and he's putting in some bad performances and thing, yes, I would love it that it doesn't matter how shit we are, he keeps his standards. I would love that, but he wears his heart on his sleeve, and it's hard for him to do that clearly when he can see things going wrong. We need things to go right, is my point, and it's not all down to Romero why things are going wrong.
No, but he's not helping things. That's the reality.
He's not anywhere near the main problem. Like, when it comes to a list of problems,
I agree. I totally agree with that.
He is. If there's 100 problems, he's number 99.
I agree with that. I completely agree with that. Like I said, I'm not sitting here saying sell Kuti now. He's the biggest problem at this football club. I'm just saying if these mistakes keep happening and a big bid comes in, I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't be totally for it. I'll be upset to lose him. I agree with you in terms of I think he's a top quality centre back, but I don't think he's performed at the levels that we know he can reach since joining Tottenham Hotspur. Like, you look at the players that we had, like Ledley King, you know what I mean? Ledley King was 1 in a million, but Ledley King played in some god-awful teams, you know what I mean? He never made consistent mistakes like this, so we never once thought about moving Ledley King on or removing the captaincy from him or anything like that. He played in probably just as bad teams as what Romero's playing in right now. So he needs to get better consistently, and he needs to, wake up and remove these kind of stupid behaviours from his game. That's the reality, because he's the captain of this football club, and he needs to hold himself to a higher standard than what he's doing so right now.
Mm-hmm.
But look, moving back onto the game, the second half comes, and I said to Brian at half time, like, we had to get that second goal whilst we're on top. Otherwise, you know, we're running the risk here. And second half, we retreated. And you talk about Sunderland not scoring many goals away from home, and they're still able to pull a move together like they pulled off for that second goal. And that was an unbelievable touch and go, one-touch passing, movement. It was fantastic. They bamboozled us with that move, and it was an unbelievable finish. And that is something that Sunderland are capable of, and Spurs are not. We're not capable of a move like that, playing the way we're playing.
Yeah, and we were... Obviously, we had chances on the counter yesterday to just kill the game off, but either the quality in the final pass was missing or the quality in the final finish or touch was missing, and it ended up being a case of we were just sitting back, drawing more and more kind of pressure onto us, giving Sunderland more and more encouragement. And I think it showed, really. If we were a bit more adventurous in how we attacked in that second half, instead of relying on a few counter-attacks, we could have killed that game off, I think, because I don't think we found it too hard to create the openings. But in the end, it was just too far between. I think we were talking about maybe one or two moments in that second half we could have killed it off. And look, we should have probably taken one of them. And you can say, I definitely put it down to the players why in those moments we didn't kill the game off. But I also think it was definitely a lot down to the approach of how penned back we were and how we were just giving Sunderland more and more encouragement as the game wore on. And I'm looking at how we set up when we're off the ball, and it is so defensive. Like, sometimes you have Richarlison in the defensive midfield area, and when we do win the ball back, we've got no outlet. There's no one up front. You can, even if you want to go long or have a quick counter attack. I don't know if you saw yesterday. Look at the goal. Did you see Brentford's goals yesterday?
I saw one or two. I didn't see them all.
So in the last goal they scored, Everton are trying to get the goal. They're trying to get back in the game. Thiago's just there on the halfway line, like ready and waiting for a counter. Everton have a chance. Brentford win the ball back, and Nathan Collins with one pass plays Thiago through on goal straight, right near the end of the game, and he's through on goal and they score. Because we don't have that player waiting on the halfway line, we can't do that. It's like we're way too deep. He needs to allow someone to be stood up the pitch so that we have an outlet and a quick counter if we do win the ball back. And it just seems that every time we're penned in and we can't get out because we don't have an outlet, and that is so frustrating to watch. It's why we don't really score many counter-attacking goals. It's because we're so deep in our own half, so obsessed with having to block every kind of area within the penalty box that we don't think about what we do when we get the ball back. And that's what leads to a situation like yesterday where we're being penned in, no outlet, no threat going the other way. And then eventually, even a team like Sunderland, who don't score that many goals, will probably find a moment, and that's exactly what they did. And it's a negative mindset, and it was really frustrating to watch. And he made some of the subs, but I thought Scarlett could have come on earlier because Richarlison was absolutely dead on his feet, it seemed, early on. He could have been brought on. I think Bergvall should have maybe come on and instead of Gray and played in the double pivot rather than playing further forward. But he doesn't seem to want to play him there. He only wants to play him in the 10. I understand there's a lack of options.
By the way, did you see that comment in the press conference? You asked about the like-for-like changes, and Frank goes, "Well, yeah, you see a team like," I think it was talking about Arsenal, he's like, they're able to bring on like-for-like players, and he was saying, well, I brought on a like-for-like player, Lucas Bergvall for Wilson Odebear, and I'm like, what?
It's so different.
I was like, what are you talking about? Wilson Odebear for Lucas Bergvall, like-for-like. One's a winger and one's an 8. How are they like-for-like?
I know, I read that and I just cringed. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're really not helping yourself at all. So, yeah, I mean, I was at a loss with us. And then the problem was, once they scored, we then have Bentancur and Paulinho on the pitch. as our double pivot again, and then we have no way of basically going forward and no way of progressing the ball because they can't progress the ball. So self-fulfilling prophecy. I guess I have a bit of sympathy in the sense that when it comes to the attacking options, he didn't have too much to change it. Kuda's already gotten injured. Johnson's been sold. So what we had on the pitch is kind of what we had, and he had to do with what he got, to be honest. So I kind of feel for him in a sense. But still, I think the way we went about that second half was awful, to be honest.
Completely agree. And, you know, I feel like decision-making in the final third is a massive problem for us as well. As much as the tactics are the biggest problem, I think decision-making and the quality of the personnel that we have in the forward line. I mean, just how many times do we have the ball in actually promising positions and it just breaks down with poor passing or poor choice of a pass? There was one moment, isn't it? João Palhinha had the ball and it looked so promising. He had Lucas Bergvall completely free on the left-hand side, and he decides to try and chip the ball in to Richarlison, who had like 2 or 3 men around him. And I'm like, why? Like, why? Like, he's got Dan Ballard on him. Like, Ballard's like some 6'5" unit, and some other players were there as well. And I'm like, Bergvall is completely free on the left-hand side. Why are you not choosing that option? And it's just like, this happens consistently, time and time again, and it's so frustrating. And
I would argue, I agree, but I'd argue that boils down to, first of all, a lot of the time, yesterday that was a big problem. We did get in a lot of promising positions and we screwed it up. But I'd argue over the course of the season, we haven't got into those promising positions anywhere near enough in a lot of games. Most games, it's been us barely getting into their half, let alone getting into promising positions, and that's because of the setup. Now, for me, I think you can't just say in this game, okay, we're going to go attacking today, and then expect to play front foot football, and then once we get in those positions, it's going to be like we've been playing it all season. That's an approach you have to go for consistently in every game, so players perfect it, players get used to it, players get into a rhythm. So when you get into those passing opportunities, you get into those shooting opportunities, it's not like this is the first time you've been in that opportunity all season. It's like you've been in this situation 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 20, 30, 50 times. And then you know what decision to make. You know the right decision to make, and it becomes second nature. You're not thinking yourself. I think at the moment we're getting into these positions, and we're kind of doubting ourselves, and we don't have the quality. And also, when those decisions go wrong, it's almost as if it's even worse because we don't get in those positions often. So you don't know the next time you're going to get in those positions. So it makes it even more frustrating for the players and probably for the coach that when something screws up, it's like a double frustration. So for me, that all boils down to the approach we've been going through this season. I know it's very easy to point to yesterday and say, look at that pass. If he would have just made it right, we would have won the game. That's down to the players, not to Frank. But I think for me, the bigger picture is that comes down to the approach, because we have overall, because we have not been in those situations anywhere near enough this season, and the players haven't found themselves in those situations at all this season. So for me, if we were playing that approach, instead of that situation yesterday where he's squares up the defender and he has a shot and it goes just wide, right? If that was maybe the 20th time he had done that this season rather than the second, maybe that bends into the corner rather than goes just wide. You know what I mean? Players need to be practicing this approach constantly. And for me, from what I've seen from us this season, we've done it once against Brentford, and we did it for 45 minutes against Sunderland, maybe 45 minutes against Brighton. Other than that, it's very seldom we see Tottenham playing this front foot football. And so, as much as the players have to take responsibility, I think a lot of it boils down to how little we get in those situations for me.
Yeah, and look, I can see that, and I think that's definitely a valid point, and the manager has to take a lot of blame in terms of, well, the majority of it. I would say, if I'm trying to put a slice on the blame in terms of player quality to Thomas Frank's setup, I would say it's a very high percentage on Thomas Frank. Don't get me wrong, but there were just some moments yesterday where it was just like common, just you got to make the right pass. It's obvious. It's completely obvious. Like, if you're a professional footballer, obviously you pass it to the man that's free on the left instead of the man that's got 3 men on him, including a 6'5" monster. Like, that's just obvious, man. Like
There are
that.
some decisions, they have to take responsibility.
So that's that. Look, I want to give a massive big up to Ben Davies yesterday. Massive, because Ben Davies came in. When the team sheet was read out, everyone was like, oh, God, Ben Davies at left back, Ben Davies this, Ben Davies that. I was one of them. You were probably one of them. I think there wasn't a Spurs fan out there that was saying it's a good decision to put Ben Davies in, but he was our best player yesterday.
Yeah, he played well.
He was really our best player. I thought defensively, he handled his side really well, got our goal. He had a chance as well with the header, which was a shot on target. I think he didn't put a foot wrong really yesterday, Ben Davies. So I just want to say a massive big up to him.
Yeah, I think he came in, didn't really put a foot wrong. Had a shot clear off the line, scored his goal, got a song made for him as well. Is that his first song he's had?
Probably, yeah.
It's taken a while. It is mad to think, if I told you in 2016 Ben Davies would score our first goal of 2026,
I know.
10 years later, you just said I'm crazy, but here we are. But yeah, fair play to him. Actually had a good game. So
Yeah.
Not gonna. Yeah, I don't think he was like spectacular, but he had a fine game.
Yeah. I thought he was our man of the match, to be honest.
Probably more says about us than him, I would say.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, but that's where we are. And Porro as well. Like Porro, I thought he was fantastic in the first half, and then second half he let that kind of bad passing creep back into his game, didn't he? That we've seen over the last couple of weeks.